Columbia University's president, Minoj Shafik, resigned on Wednesday after months of criticism from both pro-Israel and pro-Palestinian groups over how the university handled campus protests related to the Gaza conflict. She's the third president of a major U.S. university to step down after protests over Gaza. Shafik said in an announcement that, quote, "It has also been a period of turmoil where it has been difficult to overcome divergent views across our community. This period has taken a considerable toll on my family, as it has for others in our community." She also said stepping down would help Columbia navigate future challenges better, and that she made the announcement early so new leadership could start before the next term begins. Protesters have vowed to continue protests after the new term begins on September 3rd. The protests in April and May engulfed parts of Columbia's campus, rallying in opposition to civilian deaths in Gaza. Shafik was criticized by both sides, protesters for calling police to end the demonstrations, which led to hundreds of arrests, and pro-Israel supporters for not taking stronger action. After protesters set up tents and demanded the university sell its Israeli assets, officials tried to negotiate an agreement to dismantle the camps. When talks failed, Shafik asked New York police to enter the campus on April 18th, which angered many rights groups, students, and faculty. In addition to the arrest, the tents were removed, but they returned soon after. The university called the police again on April 30th, leading to further arrests, both at Columbia and nearby City College of New York. She then asked the police to stay until May 17th, 2 days after graduation, to keep order and prevent the tents from being set up again. Republican Representative Elise Stefanik, who has been a critic of university leaders in congressional hearings about the protest, welcomed Shafik's resignation on X, calling it overdue for her failure to protect Jewish students during the Gaza protests.
Thailand's Constitutional Court dismissed Prime Minister Srettha Thavisin on Wednesday for a breach of ethics. Srettha had appointed a former lawyer who was briefly imprisoned in 2008 to his cabinet. But the court ruled that in doing so, the Prime Minister had violated the Constitution by appointing a minister who did not meet ethical standards. Real estate tycoon Srettha now becomes the fourth Thai premier in 16 years to be removed by verdicts from the same court. 62-year-old Srettha's removal after less than a year in power means Parliament must convene to choose a new premier, while an interim leader steps in and the cabinet assumes a caretaker role. But with that comes a prospect of more uncertainty in a country dogged for 2 decades by coups and court rulings that have brought down multiple governments and political parties. The next premier would need to have been nominated a prime ministerial candidate by their parties prior to the 2023 election. A likely candidate is Paetongtarn Shinawatra, the 37-year-old daughter of the billionaire figurehead of the Pheu Thai party, Thaksin Shinawatra. She is also party leader and will be the third Shinawatra to take the top job if chosen by Parliament. Other potential candidates include Interior Minister Anutin Shanvirakul, Energy Minister Pirapan Saliratha Virbaga, and Prawit Wongsuwan, an influential former army chief who was involved in the last 2 coups. Last August, Srettha's Pheu Thai party finished second in the polls, but the election-winning Move Forward party was blocked by military-appointed lawmakers from forming a government. This left the door open for Srettha to cobble together a ruling coalition. Despite his intentions, his tenure has been marred by setbacks and economic woes, with polls indicating a majority of Thais have an unflattering view of his leadership.
British consumer price inflation increased for the first time this year in July. CPI reached 2.2% after spending a couple of months at the central bank's 2% target. The rise was smaller than expected as services prices rose less rapidly. Wednesday's official data saw financial markets raise bets of a rate cut in September, though most economists believe the central bank is likely to stay cautious on rates. The central bank expects CPI to rise further by the end of the year as the effects of last year's sharp falls in energy prices fades. The UK's CPI is still lower than in the Eurozone and the US. But many households still feel squeezed by the sharp rise in prices over the past 2 years. The central bank remains relatively focused on longer-term inflation pressures, including services prices. Wednesday's data showed annual services price inflation fell to 5.2% in July from June's 5.7%, below forecasts. The update comes a day after data showed annual wage growth excluding bonuses slowed to its lowest in nearly 2 years at 5.4%. Those figures also showed a surprise drop in unemployment.
New evidence of liquid water far below the surface on Mars is giving insight into what might have happened to Mars's ancient oceans. The recently released study uses data from NASA's Mars InSight lander.
And that tells us something about the water cycle of Mars.
Planetary scientist Vashon Wright is the study's lead author.
So Mars once had lakes, rivers, and possibly oceans on its surface. It has been, for the longest period of time, unclear where that water went after 3 billion years.
The lander, on the red planet since 2018, measured seismic data over 4 years. It examined how quakes shook the ground and determined what materials or substances were beneath the surface. Based on that, researchers found liquid water was most likely present about 7 to 12 miles below.
Our study findings do not say anything about whether there is or is not life on the planet. The only thing we can say is that a key ingredient for life as we know it and for habitability exists.
The study hypothesizes that the amount of water could have filled ancient oceans on Mars. Water would be a vital resource if humans ever establish some sort of long-term settlement, but directly studying the water that deep beneath the surface is unlikely.
Drilling to get this water would be challenging. So on Earth, what you do is you often circulate fluids or muds to make drilling easier. You also need a lot of power or energy to make that drilling happen. And those two things need to either already be on Mars or we need to take them to Mars. And so that is a challenge in and of itself.
The situation constitutes a public health emergency of international concern.
The World Health Organization on Wednesday declared Mpox a global public health emergency for the second time in 2 years. The alert comes after an outbreak of the viral infection in the Democratic Republic of Congo spread to neighboring countries. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus.
The detection and rapid spread of a new clade of Mpox in eastern DRC, its detection in neighboring countries that had not previously reported Mpox, and the potential for further spread within Africa and beyond is very worrying. It's clear that a coordinated international response is essential to stop these outbreaks and save lives.
Mpox, which is usually mild, can spread through close contact and in rare cases be fatal. It causes flu-like symptoms and pus-filled lesions on the body. The outbreak in the Congo began with the spread of an endemic strain known as Clade 1, but a new variant, Clade 1b, appears to spread more easily through routine close contact, including sexual contact. It has spread from the Congo to neighboring countries including Burundi, Kenya, Rwanda, and Uganda, triggering the action from the WHO. Tedros said on Wednesday that the WHO had released $1.5 million in contingency funds and plans to release more in the coming days. WHO's response plan would require an initial $15 million, and the agency plans to appeal to donors for funding.
Hostages get released via a hostage deal and not while fire is ensuing. We need a ceasefire to get them all back. We cannot trust the Israeli government anymore. It has been torpedoing any effort to get a deal for the past 10 months. We know there's a summit today. We put very little hopes on the Israeli delegation's seriousness to sign the deal, and we call upon the nations of the world, help us get this situation remediated. Help us put as much pressure on both parties, and especially the Israeli government, who does nothing but dragging its legs and avoiding signing a hostage deal. Had Netanyahu wanted them here, they would have been here. It's his sole responsibility, and this is this will be his
Taylor
legacy.
Swift returns to London on Thursday, resuming the world's biggest ever concert tour after her Vienna dates were canceled when an Islamic State-inspired attack was foiled. British police say there's nothing to indicate those events would impact Swift's 5 appearances at Wembley Stadium, where 90,000 people are expected to cheer her on each evening. Security is set to be tight, but counterterrorism expert Chris Phillips says stadiums like Wembley are as safe as anywhere in the world.
The fact that this incident happened in Vienna just raises the temperature a little bit around security. You may well see more security guards doing more work outside the venue.
Stadium security has told fans gathering around the stadium without a ticket, known as tailgating, that they will be moved on. Those who do have tickets will enter via metal detectors. Experts also said they expected staff to be re-vetted after a suspect in Vienna secured a job providing services at the Austrian venue. Timothy Gallagher is the chief security officer at Nardello & Co.
The insider threat is the one that's capable of doing the most damage. A hybrid threat is going to do a lot of damage as well, like where they have people on the inside and on the outside. Even if the one on the inside is just giving information.
Oh my God.
Another security expert at the firm G4S told Reuters that British authorities had learned from the Manchester attack in 2017, a bombing at an Ariana Grande concert, which killed 22 people, including young children. Police, venue security, and organizers now work as one to protect a venue like Wembley. Swift's return to Britain could be emotional after recent events. 3 young children were killed at a Taylor Swift-inspired dance class in northern England in July. Swift told her 284 million Instagram followers that she was completely in shock over the loss of life and innocence.